to talk about the right buttons to button on a jacket. We're talking about the one button, two button, three buttons that you have on a jacket. And I think some time ago, some people used to even wear four buttons. But I think this time around, the past decade, we've limited it to just one and two buttons. But we're still going to talk about three buttons. Which of these buttons am I supposed to button? Have you ever asked that question? Has someone ever told you, oh, you are not meant to button that button that you have? Oh, you are seated, you are meant to unbutton. Oh, dude, you are not supposed to have this button when standing. We're going to look at all of that, and I hope I can explain to you and bring something that we call SAN, an acronym for that is called SAN, means sometimes, always, and never. Sometimes, always, never. The acronym is SAN. What this means is that there are sometimes you are allowed to button some buttons on a jacket that you keep asking and you say, hey, style doctor Uche, who makes these rules? Who even makes this rule? Why are we not allowed to just dress the way we like to dress? Why are we not allowed to just wear the clothes we buy or make with our money the way we deem fit to wear them? You know, I'm big on history, and I'm a believer that for us to identify a problem and prefer solutions, lasting solutions to them, we must then first understand history, where it's coming from, those who made the rules, so maybe we can effortlessly break those rules if the idea is to break them. Because I do understand that there are loads of persons out there these days with a loads of money, new money, who go like, hey, I want to dress the way I want to dress, I want to be in here. But what it does to you when you don't understand history and when you don't understand why rules are made is that it exposes you lacking in the area of pedigree and knowledge. And I'm very sure that none of us watching this will want to be perceived that way. That's the whole idea for this channel. That is what this channel is about. It's about educating us so that we become better people every day as we get up from our beds. So, history takes us back. Now, this is a story. It takes us back to over a century when Queen Victoria was still there, and Queen Victoria had a son called King Edward the Seventh. When Queen Victoria passed on, the imperial mantle naturally fell on Edward, the son Edward the Seventh, and Edward the Seventh has been someone, is a blue blood of course, but is someone that has been considered a style icon. Edward the Seventh wore certain things back then that, hey, they just became hit. So I'll quickly just let us know that as it relates to the rule, the SAN rule of sometimes, always, never, Edward the Seventh, when he stepped into the imperial position, with it naturally came an imperial weight around his region, around his mid region. And there was this one time that he was wearing a jacket, and he realized that he could not button, because before then they used to actually button all the buttons before Edward the Seventh. But he realized that stepping into that position, somehow some imperial weight has been gained around his stomach area, and he could not button all the buttons, the second button that he had on. And what did he do? He was at an event. When he realized this, hey, it could not be fixed. His designer or tailor wasn't around. His alteration expert wasn't around. What he did was that the ingenuity in him just made him realize that all he needed to do was to unfasten the last button. And as he did it, being a stylish person, someone that is considered a style icon, after that experience, his followers, his subjects, everyone that looked up to him back then in the palace and everywhere just started unbuttoning the last button in their jacket, and they considered it a style. And till date, it has come to stay. For me personally, I don't consider it a pleasant sight seeing a gentleman with a bit of stomach and who decides to always, button all the buttons on his jacket, putting pressure on the buttons So imagine if Edward the Seventh did not think about it, to unbutton the last button. Maybe he would have been embarrassed. I'm sure that's what he was trying to avoid by unfastening that last button on the jacket, so that he is not embarrassed. Look at it today. It makes every sense. Why should you be putting pressure on the button of your jacket when you are seated? Always stands for always have some of this button, or always have it undone. And never means that you should never do, that. So let's quickly look at the first thing, but we're going to start with the one button, then we go to the two button, and eventually with three button. But we start with the first, the S, which is sometimes. With the one buttons, we don't really have much to say as it relates to sometimes for the first S, but always, when you are standing, always have your jacket button when it's a one button suit. Always have it button. When you are seated, never have it button. It must be unfastened when seated, when it's a one button suit. Now, let's go to the S, where we ought to have even started. The sometimes is applicable for a one button suit if you are wearing a vest and you are necessarily not walking. Maybe you're just standing, you want to take photo or something, you want the vest. Maybe the shot is about the vest. It's about the waistcoat you're wearing inside. You want it to be projected properly. Then you can likely unfasten your button, but it has to be when standing. But remember, whenever you are seated, never ever have your one button suit buttoned. And if you are standing, always have it fastened. Now it takes us into a two button suit. When wearing a two button suit, sometimes if you're standing, it is very okay to unbutton the topmost button and leave the bottom one. Now, this is depending on how you are feeling. It's nothing. It's not casted in stone. It's just aesthetics. But you must know that always leave the last button undone when the first button is buttoned. Always. If it's two button suit, that's where we are. Always leave the last button undone, and eventually never ever fasten both buttons on a two button suit, and never ever fasten the two buttons as well when seated. Hey guys, you want to feel free, you want to breathe, you want your tummy to express itself when seated, right? So sometimes, always, never, as it concerns a two button suit, is what I just explained. Now to the three button suit. For a three button suit, which we hardly see around these days, the same rule applies. Sometimes you can have the first and the second button when standing. Sometimes when standing, one and two buttons can be buttoned. Always have the middle button when standing. Now, when standing, you don't just want to button the first button and leave the other two open. No, that is not. It doesn't tell well about you. Don't do that. It doesn't just put you together. So you always have the middle button, the second button when standing, and never. I repeat, this is an unforgivable sartorial crime. Never have all three buttons button. Never have two buttons button. Never have any button when you are seated, gentlemen. We're not asking for much. We just want you to don't allow the button on your jacket to rip. I mean, look at how I'm seated. I'm not button. I can't but if I button, it's going to put pressure. Look at it. It's going to put pressure. But if I'm standing, it's a different ball game. It's going to be smooth. So I hope that we've been able to make some sense today. I hope somebody out there understands why and how it came about when they say that you should not button certain buttons on your jacket. And now you know the right buttons to button when wearing a jacket and how it came about. Until the next time I see you again, my name remains Uche Naji, your style doctor, saying remain sartorially correct and always put your best foot forward.